Oftentimes it's unreported.
It can happen anytime, anywhere.
We had a tip that there was a young female out here with an older gentleman.
Emmett Township Detective Sergeant Richard Mackey is part of a joint task force in Calhoun County tracking down human traffickers at truck stops and motels.
We encountered a runaway female from Louisiana up here who had ran away from home, and we believed that she was being sex trafficked.
Detective Sergeant Mackey tells us in his 13 years in law enforcement, he's investigated just 4 cases of human trafficking.
A lot of it is website based, and they're disguised under escort services.
Who are these individuals that are showing up?
They're the guy next door many times that you would never suspect.
Detective Sergeant Mackey says that most often people are trafficked not by a stranger, but by someone they trust.
Who's got case study 2?
A scenario Battle Creek resident Robin Bolz says happened to her at the age of 14 after being admitted to a local hospital for a severe illness.
While I was in the hospital, one of my care providers was also had interest in building a relationship with me, and I was just a minor.
So a medical professional who was there to help you with your pneumonia became a predator?
Yes, absolutely.
Robin says the abuse was also happening at home.
Bottom apartment right underneath the balcony.
She shows us her childhood apartment in Battle Creek where she once lived with her mother and her boyfriend.
And oftentimes I would get locked out of the apartment. I do believe my mom was also a victim of trafficking of some sort.
Robin takes us to another location where she says her mother's boyfriend abducted her and forced her to live in a small locked room.
He would often make me sleep in the bathtub. He would urinate on me. I had to do special favors to get privileges and my basic needs met.
Battle Creek police records show Robin was reported as a runaway dozens of times, but when officers showed up, she says she was told to simply go home.
They looked at me as a troubled teen instead of a teen in trouble.
One night, after she woke up from being beaten unconscious, Robin had enough.
I told my abductor I'm leaving, and he said, "I'll kill you if you do." And I said, "You're going to kill me anyways, it doesn't matter." I'm bloody and bruising. I walked out of that door.
3 decades later, Robin thought the trauma of her past was over until she went to a church service in 2023 and ran into the healthcare provider who she says trafficked her as a child, telling her he wanted to reconnect. Days later, she filed a report with Battle Creek Police, afraid for the safety of the children who attended that church.
So you believe there were other victims
Guaranteed,
after you?
100%.
Robin says her testimony of childhood trauma coincided with the stack of police reports filed by her mother in the late 1990s.
So they pulled it out and they laid my life out in front of me in black and white, and he knew at that moment that I was telling the truth.
The detective called the retired healthcare provider that Robin accused of trafficking her. In that recorded conversation, he admitted to police that Robin had visited his home when she was a minor.
But at no time there was oral sex or anything like that happened.
Not that I remember, no.
2 days later, police documents show he was found dead, his death ruled a suicide. In 1990, the gruesome murder of Battle Creek resident Debbie Frost made headlines. Police saying she was shot to death at home by her ex-boyfriend in front of her 6-year-old daughter.
It's devastating.
Frost's childhood friend Teri Pearce telling us more than 3 decades later, it's excruciating to talk about.
He chased her and shot her as she was running down the stairs, and she lied dead at the end of the stairs.
Teri saved the articles, saying it was the loss of her friend that gave her the strength to leave her own abusive relationship.
I needed to get out for my children and for myself. I knew that could have been me, and that scared me more than anything.
A place where some may go to find solitude, one woman experienced horrific abuse.
This creek right here is often where I would take a shower.
Human trafficking survivor Robin Bolz takes us for a walk on Linear Trail in Battle Creek. The snow-covered path now hides the spot she says her abductor would trade her for money at the age of 14.
Oftentimes this trail right here, we would sleep on it. Oftentimes I would get beaten on it. Oftentimes this is where he would trade me with friends to get basic needs of food.
Robin's only childhood photo is now on a billboard along I-94 in Calhoun County.
This is our 24/7 phone number.
She's willing to share her story if it means even just one little girl is rescued by a stranger who notices the signs.
Just because I've built so much resilience and I've climbed up to the point where I am today.
But Robin says she's one of the lucky ones. She remembers being forced to commit crimes, including shoplifting and prostitution, but was never caught.
I was told to do it. I had to do it. I didn't have a choice.
But for the human trafficking survivors who do have a criminal record, that's where Nate Napper and the Joseph Project come in.
Freedom for us means removing every barrier that stands between the survivor and an empowered future.
The Michigan-based nonprofit has helped nearly 600 survivors with what Napper calls a legal first responders network that expands to 32 states in the District of Columbia.
And so, part of closing the justice gap, as we say, is to deliver criminal record relief to those people by way of the expungement process.
Napper, who is also a federal law enforcement officer, says 90% of survivors have a need for legal assistance. He says many struggle to find employment, education, and housing because of their criminal record.
The last figure set that I saw, I believe, was from 2023. And I think that it said that there was about 500 or so victims that were identified in that year in Michigan alone.
Just 500?
Just 500.
Is that underreported?
I believe it is underreported. And I was going to make that point. I think that represents only a snapshot of the problem.
Robin and other survivors testified in Lansing last November for 3 Senate bills designed to support law enforcement officers and attorneys as they make their case against traffickers.
There is no reason why you could not establish a national legal network, pro bono network. That's the end goal of the Joseph Project. The question is, will you keep faith and will you persevere long enough to see God bring good out of the dark things that you've been through?
Who is that? Is that Sammy? Yeah? Sammy?
Even with Robin's darkest days now behind her, she says every moment she chooses recovery. And her faith and family are her foundation.
I had to do something with that energy, so we launched Unsilenced, and I became unsilenced. They'll become defensive or make an excuse of why their abuse is okay.
Today, Robin is hosting seminars through her new nonprofit, Unsilenced, Battle Creek Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition.
So what do you think that is?
Human trafficking.
It is.
And law enforcement officers like Detective Sergeant Mackey are partnering with Unsilenced, looking for new ways to stop the cycle of exploitation. But Robin says her work is never finished. She takes us for a walk along Linear Trail in Battle Creek, where she says decades ago she was forced to exchange sexual favors for food.
So 35 years ago, this was a trail of despair.
Yeah.
Today, obviously, you're on a new path.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how does that make you feel coming back to this location?
Very empowered to be able to stand and reflect back on it and know that I had such strength and willpower. I wouldn't be here doing what I do without God.
Right this way.
Today, Teri is helping other survivors of domestic violence find a secure place to sleep. She partners with Safe Place in Battle Creek and coordinates overflow rooms at a local hotel when the shelter is full.
How has this trauma affected you even now in life?
We can't look away. We gotta help others.
The hotel is currently helping clients from Safe Place a couple times a week.
We are full. Today, we are full most days.
The shelter's CEO, Ellen Lassiter-Collier, telling us that she expects that number to increase.
Some of the biggest trends we've seen, even over the last 18 months, are increased levels of physical violence.
Ellen says the number one cause of domestic violence is money. That means a tough economy is linked to an increase in violence.
So we had 6 domestic violence homicides in 2024 in Calhoun County. And that was the most that we've ever had. The year before was 1.
According to state data, Calhoun County's unemployment rate in March was 6.2%, compared to the state's average rate of 5.5%. Ellen says some women who escape have no money and no place to go.
And what we also estimate is that only 25% of domestic violence incidents are even being reported to law enforcement.
Nearly 5 nights a week, the 56 beds at Safe Place are full. Half are taken by children.
Wait this way.
Ellen takes us for a tour, showing us the cheerful playrooms created for kids, the communal kitchen with fully stocked shelves.
Everybody has their own mini refrigerator.
And the basement, where 4 renovated bathrooms will soon be complete. Ellen tells us the average length of stay for a survivor is 7 weeks.
I think there very well could be a correlation that we see over the next 3 to 5 years as a result of federal budget cuts to supportive services and what that means for families and increased rates of violence.
As for Teri, she says she'll continue to support Safe Place in memory of her friend Debbie. She shows us a photo from 1966 as they get ready for a dance recital.
What do you think about when you look at that photo?
Innocence and just the both of us, our lives. You never know what the future holds.
I'm Andy Dominiani. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, we've got much more to see. So take a second and subscribe to our channel.